Hey, it's Drybear. The wizard in Baldur's Gate 3 has 8 different subclasses, whereas most classes in the game have anywhere from 2 to 3. So today I'm going to help you understand the difference between the 8 different schools of magic for wizard, and there's some things about each of them that might surprise you. But first, you should come hang out with me on my live stream. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/Drybear. If you don't come hang out with me in the community on Twitch, then the next time you go to open your mustard bottle, you're going to peel the seal off, and the silver part of the seal is going to come off, but not that thin plastic layer underneath. All right, to avoid spoilers, I am showing footage of my third playthrough in Act 1, the very beginning of the game, in one of the first quests that you run into, just so we can show this. But I am playing a double wizard playthrough, and the theme of my third playthrough is around magic and the weave. So I wanted to have multiple wizards, I want to test around with wizards, but as I've been playing, I've been getting questions around the wizard in chat, talking about what's good for wizard, what builds are good, and I will be posting my summoner build for wizard soon. But the big thing about wizard is that they are the masters of magic. And what this means relative to, say, warlocks or sorcerers, warlocks have the ability to gain magic powers from a patron that they swear fealty to. Sorcerers have the power built into them, but wizards have the ability to study magic and learn it from scrolls, and they can have a very large wide set selection of spells to choose from. Now on screen, I've placed the subclass agnostic decisions for wizard from level 1 all the way up until a level 12. So you can see what they get that is agnostic of the subclass. All wizard specs will get this. It's very easy to just kind of go through and see every level you get an extra spell that you can have on your bar prepared and ready to use. So as you level up wizard, by the way, is one of the few classes in D&D and in Baldur's Gate 3 that you are encouraged to level up as high as possible. Specifically, level 11 is when you get your level 6 spells, and they're all incredibly powerful. And so they are one of the few classes that you do want to consider taking all the way up to at least level 11 with a 1, or all the way to 12 if you really want to, because they do benefit greatly from having that. But you can see that you get spells, you learn spells every level, you get cantrips every now and then, you'll unlock more and more spell slots as you go along. But specifically at level 2, just like druids, you will choose your subclass of the 8 available, and then at level you will actually get a benefit for having that subclass. Level 4 is still your ability score adjustment or feat. Then level 6, you get another bonus for whatever subclass you chose for wizard. Then level 8, you get another feat decision or an assay if you want it. And then of course level 10, you get your final mastery of that school of magic, whatever it is that you're taught, whatever it is that you chose for your subclass. So now we have a basis for what all wizards get. Let's focus on the differences between the subclasses that you might be choosing from to figure out which one you're going to be playing with your playthrough. By the way, all wizards get access to all spells, and each spell that you learn in the wizard book will have a specific school of magic associated with it. And for most, not all, but most of the subclasses, they will have some sort of strength or benefit that they have when utilizing that specific school of magic. So that's one thing that you want to think of. But no matter what subclass you choose for your wizard, you will always be able to use any of the wizard spells. You just might be better at using specific ones depending on the choice that you made. Abjuration is one that I think a lot of people should strongly consider playing. It is a very strong subclass for wizard, but it's one that's not super popular for whatever reason. And what Abjuration does is every time you cast a spell, you get to shield yourself for that shield amount. And at level 2, that's where your ward, your arcane ward, comes from. So you're able to use things to keep yourself tanky. But as you put more points into wizard and level your wizard up and do more with it, at level 6, you get a projected ward, which means that when someone near you, an ally, takes damage, so you cast a spell, you get an arcane ward around you because you casted a spell. Then, at the same point, at level 6, when someone near you, a teammate, takes damage, you have the option to grant them that shield and then absorb some of that damage when they take damage instead. So it's almost like playing kind of like a paladin with protection or shield, being able to help people while still being an aggressive spellcaster that can deal damage. And then level 10, you get improved abjuration, and this allows you to improve your shields even further every time you take a short rest. So in between each long rest, you have 2 ways to improve your shields and make them even stronger, so you can become even tankier. And I think this is also a great option if you're not going to go for like Eldritch Knight. I think this is a great option for battle casters or battle mages that want to do melee and casting. because having that extra shield, especially one you can give to allies, is incredibly powerful. The next one is Conjuration, and is personally the one I'm working on right now for a summoner build. And this is summoning things, objects, items, creatures, that sort of thing, through wizardry, through magic. At level 2, you get Minor Conjuration, Create Water, so you're able to create water. This works great for any cold or lightning spells. New to D&D and new in Baldur's Gate 3 is a brand new status effect called Wet. If for whatever reason you or any target gets wet by walking through water or by being drowned in water through Create Water, they'll get the status effect Wet. And when you're wet, you are vulnerable to cold damage and lightning damage. So you can get some pretty serious bursts out of this. This is super helpful if you're going to be running with like Shocking Grasp or Witch Bolt or Ray of Frost or any of those early frost or lightning spells. You can just cast Create Water. It's also good for clearing puddles in the ground of acid or blood or anything you might slip on that might be dangerous for your party. And it helps with those sorts of things. So it's actually a very useful spell and one that you should consider, but you get this right off the bat at level 2 for Conjuration. But that's not the big win for Conjuration. Their level 2 isn't the greatest. It's when they start pushing more points in Wizard that things really start to come online. At level 6, you get Benign Transposition, which means that you can teleport anywhere in the space that you can see. So it's basically like a Misty Step on an action that doesn't use a spell slot. Now, it's only usable once per short rest, but if you cast any kind of spell, any kind of Conjuration spell afterwards, it'll refresh. So you can cast a spell, teleport, cast a spell, teleport, which is incredibly powerful. And you can also swap locations with an ally you're targeting with. This is great for summon builds because it means you can swap, like, if someone moves up on you into melee range, you can swap with one of your tanky minions, one of your elementals, and have them take the damage. Or you can swap around for maybe your barbarians far away and you're being onslaughted. You can swap with them, put them in that spot. And then if they want to keep chasing you, they're going to have to risk the opportunity attack from your barbarian or your fighter or your paladin or whatever it is. Then at level 10, they get a super cool passive Focus Conjuration. Damage taken while concentrating on a Conjuration spell will not break it. It won't trigger a saving throw. It won't break your concentration. It's not about damage. It's just they'll have to trigger your saving throw other ways rather than just hitting you directly. Now, it has to be a Conjuration spell, which is a little bit different than just any kind of concentration. It's not like Hold Person or something like that. But not only is there are spells like Flaming Sphere, which is concentration and a very strong minion that you can summon, but you can also do things like Grasping Vines as enchantment or is Conjuration. You can put it down on the ground and you can slow enemies and then they can't hit you and just deal damage to stop you from casting it. It'll have to be a different way to prevent you from having that. Divination is another slept on subclass for Wizard, and it's insanely, insanely powerful. It's just not as upfront obvious how good it actually is. So what you get for Divination is you get at level 2, when you choose your subclass, you immediately get Portent Dice. Portent Dice allow you to change the die roll of anything near you twice per long rests. So I believe it's long rest. So you'll be able to change a saving throw. You'll be able to change an attack roll. So if your ally makes a bad attack roll, and like they do poor damage, you'll get the option to roll a portent die and change that outcome before it actually goes, or a saving throw. Say there's like a saving throw on your Hold Person and you don't want it to go away. Or maybe someone throws out a really nasty debuff, you fail a saving throw, or someone near you fails it, you can re-roll that portent dice to get a different outcome. So it's incredibly powerful to be able to change the fates of what's going on with Divination. At level 6, you get even better at this. You gain an additional portent die, which is 3 total, and you receive a prophecy each short rest that will allow you to restore 1 portent die. So you get an extra, you get that extra portent die, which means you can do it even more. Then at level 10, you get 2, I believe those are both actions. You get the ability to cast Dark Vision and see Invisibility, and it grants whoever you target that effect until they take a long rest. So you can get Dark Vision on any character that doesn't have it, which is super useful. Some people think Dark Vision is just being able to see in the dark, and it's useful when you're in caves or in Act 2, but it's actually much, much more than that, because if you're attacking an enemy that is in the dark or obscured, you have disadvantage because of that. You have negative effects for attacking someone that you can't properly see. So giving, especially like a ranged character, Dark Vision, especially superior Dark Vision, you can allow them to attack enemies that are further away that may be sitting in the dark without having to roll a worse outcome because you lose you gain that disadvantage for you. And see, invisibility is super nice. There are a lot of characters that go invis. There are also a lot of traps and secrets you can find with see invisibility. So having that as just an ability that you can use whenever you want for all the way until long rest makes it very, very interesting and very cool to be able to do this with Divination. Enchantment is probably one of the strongest options because it focuses a lot on your ability to crowd control enemies, especially if you're playing on Tactician or you mod it to Tactician Plus. CC is the way to go. The enemies do so much damage. They have so much more, their attack rolls are increased, their proficiencies are increased, their HP is increased, their AI focuses more on killing people off and focusing on weak targets. So it becomes a lot more aggressive and difficult to survive. So CC is really, really big for this. So enchantment is most of those kind of hypnotic patterns and hold person and CC and those sorts of things, which is super useful. Your level 2, when you unlock enchantment as a subclass, it gives you hypnotic gaze as an action, not as a spell slot. You get this as a pure action. You can charm and incapacitate a target for 2 turns, and you get the chance to re-up this to reapply it to extend the duration of it. So you can charm someone, take them out of the fight, you're good to go, which makes it a lot easier. At level 6, you get instinctive charm. Charm an enemy attacking you, forcing them to attack a new target instead, so you can just avoid damage. This is super useful when there's an enemy that's incredibly strong or has a big weapon and you feel like it's going to take you down. You can choose to redirect them with this reaction. And then level 10, you have split enchantment, which is really when enchantment comes online. Any enchantment spell that targets only one creature, with this passive, it will allow you to, without adding a spell tier to it, target an additional target. So for example, any spell that you have that targets one person, if say it's like normally a level 2 spell or a level 3 spell, if you raise the spell slot you cast with that, then it will give you another option for targeting more. This gives you that option right off the bat, and you can ultimately start casting hold person on 4 or 5 people, which is almost like hypnotic pattern, but even better because you can just hold them and attack them without breaking it, which is one of the strongest spells in the game, which makes enchantment very, very powerful for team support and for dealing damage. Evocation is probably the most popular, and it is the base subclass that Gale starts with if you have him as a companion in your party. And this one just makes wizarding so much more fun and more relaxed because it gives you some options to cast large, dangerous AoE spells without endangering your teammates, but they have to be evocation. So at level 2, you get sculpt spells. Allies automatically succeed any saving throw. So if there's like you create ice and they might slip, or you have some CC effect or something like that, you can cast a big AoE evocation spell in that area, and your allies will always succeed that saving throw. They won't be affected by the negative status effects that come with it, and they take no damage from your spells, which means that you can cast evocation spells towards the target if you do like a big fireball or a lightning bolt or something like that, and their allies in the way. You don't have to worry about that anymore because you can just shoot right through them and they won't even be affected by it at all, which is probably full stop all you really need to make evocation worth it. It means that your melee companions can go in and start attacking. You don't have to worry about clipping them or having friendly fire. You can fire away with those evocation spells. Level 6, you get potent cantrip, which means that when they succeed a saving throw against any of your evocation cantrip spells, it still takes half damage. So no matter what, you can't do any failure, and especially if you go with Elemental Adept, which means that you can't ever roll a 1 on any of your spells, including cantrips. You'll be able to focus on those and do some really crazy damage with cantrips when you're out of spell slots, or you feel like you don't want to spend one. And then if you want to do a big screw you massive evocation spell, you can do that and not have to worry about hitting your teammates. Then at level 10, you get Empowered Evocation, which means you get to add your intelligence modifier. Whatever your proficiency and level intelligence is, you get to add it as damage to your evocation spell. So if you have 18 or 20 intelligence, you get to add a couple damage to every evocation spell hit that you have, allowing you to do even more damage with those. So again, you're specializing in evocation spells, but you do a lot of damage, and most of the best spells for the early game, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and even the cantrips are all evocation. Later on, some of the best spells are not just evocation, like Disintegrate is Transmutation and things like that. You can get a ton of very high damaging wizard spells that aren't limited to evocation mid and late game, but early on, all the best damaging spells are really evocation for that reason. So it's super awesome to be able to have these effects for that. The illusion subclass is super fun. I love this one. One of the most slept on abilities in the entire game is minor illusion. You can cast it as a cantrip, and what it does, it creates an illusion of something at a location. And I think people just haven't really messed around with it too much to know exactly how good it actually is. But when the illusion spawns, all enemies in the area, and the radius is massive, you can cover an entire room, all of the enemies that are affected by that minor illusion will have to roll an investigation check. If they fail the investigation check, they will then want to go over and investigate whatever it is that's over there because they don't know what it is. So it's almost like a black hole light, because if you cast it on an entire room of enemies, some of them will fail that check and they will all go over to stand in front of the illusion to see what it is, and they'll spend their turn. They might even dash, which uses an action. They might even dash over to the illusion, stand in front of it, realize it's nothing, and then they wasted their turn, and they're just all grouped up in one spot, and you can do tons of damage. You can throw an explosive barrel, some kind of, smoke bomb or smoke powder explosive on top of them, or just blast them with a big spell. It's super strong. So on top of that, when you run illusion subclass for wizard, you get improved minor illusion, which means you can cast minor illusion as a bonus action, which means you can cast minor illusion and then cast a normal action or spell on top of it, which is incredibly powerful. And you can cast minor illusion while you're silenced, and you can do it while hiding, and it won't take you out of hiding. Incredibly powerful. You can do some amazing, you can do a full playthrough of just tricking people, getting people to gather up, distracting them with little illusory cats that meow and things like that. At level 6, you gain see invisibility as an action without a spell slot, which means you can just cast this whenever you want, and you can see invis. Again, super useful for puzzles and solving, going through traps and dungeon delving, but it's also useful for finding stealth targets, which you will find a lot of in your playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. And level 10, you get illusory self, which means you can fashion an illusory version of yourself when you're attacked, causing your foe to miss, which means that you get to use this when they're, again, a big attack. There's bosses that deal very strong melee damage, like almost one-shotting damage, especially if you're on tactician. Well, they'll walk up to you and one-hit you. You can use illusory self to make them miss that attack, and it'll cause you to survive, which is super useful. Next is one of the most popular schools of magic for wizardry, and that is Necromancy. And there's a lot of great reasons to run Necro. I'll probably be posting a Necromancer build because they're just so much fun to play, and they're so powerful as well. So you'll be able to create a lot of really fun armies and do some cool necrotic damage and that sort of thing. So when you choose Necromancy as your subclass for wizard, at level 2, you'll get Grim Harvest, which means that you heal when killing a creature with a spell equal to 2 times the spell slot level you use to kill the target, or 3 times if it's a necromancy spell. So you'll be able to do, if you do a tier 1, that will heal you for 3 HP if you kill the target, if it's necromancer. But if you kill them with, say, blight, or you go all the way up till tier 5, tier 6, you can get some pretty significant, like upwards of 18 to 20 HP when you kill a target with a necromancy spell, which is a big self-heal when you're taking an offensive action at the same time, which is crazy. At level 6, things really start to take off for Necromancer, and it sets them apart from most minion builds because they're able to do this. At level 6, 3 things get added to your spellbook. Undead Thralls get added to your spellbook, which means that your animate dead summons are stronger than any other animate dead summons in the game. You have to be Necromancy Wizard level 6 in order to gain access to this, and it allows you to summon Thralls, which are very strong versions of the animate dead. You can also gain 1 additional undead minion, which means you can have a maximum of 3 out at one time instead of 2. And if you're non-necromancy, you can only have 1, which is a big difference. You can have like 2 ghouls and then a mummy at late game, which makes you super strong. And then you also have undead thralls, which is, it makes your minions better, which means that animated dead minions have your wizard level in whatever your wizard level is. It adds that to them in HP. And your proficiency bonus for attack gets added to theirs, which means that when they deal damage, when any undead minion deals damage, whatever your proficiency bonus is for dealing damage, they gain it as well, which means they do more damage, they have more health, you have better versions of them, and you can summon an additional one as well. At level 10, you're inured to undeath, which means you are resistant to all necrotic damage, and your max HP cannot be reduced. So any debuff that lowers your max HP doesn't affect you, and you're resistant to necrotic damage. There's at least 2 major encounters, without giving you spoilers in the game, that are primarily necrotic damage. So being a necro in this case gives you a significant advantage in that encounter. And the last one is Transmutation, and one that I hope I see people use more often because it's super unique and very fun and very different. It'd be very cool to do just a transmutation focused playthrough. So if you didn't know already, there is alchemy in the game. You'll find alchemy supplies. You can craft potions and effects in the game. And when you are running a transmutation wizard, you have the ability to double any production that you have from your alchemy. So you can make 2 potions of resistance. You can make 2 explosives. You can make 2 healing potions. And honestly, there's not enough alchemy supplies in the game. I feel like you don't really get enough to be crafting all the time. So being able to double that output is a unique effect that only transmutation wizards can do, and it's super strong and super valuable. At level 6, things get even more interesting because you unlock the ability to create a Transmuter's Stone. What this is an ability that you can cast once per long rest. You cast it, and when you cast it, it'll give you an option to choose what kind of Transmuter's Stone you want to create. And whatever stone you create will have a buff effect on it. And then you can take that stone and put it in anyone's inventory. And as long as they have it in their inventory, they will gain whatever benefit that you chose. Which means that if you are paying attention to the encounters you're running into, to the effects that you're running into, the fights you're running into, you can craft a specific magical stone that gives you benefit towards that in some way. An example of some of the things that are there inside of that, you can increase your resistance to any kind of effect, bludgeoning, fire, lightning, things like that. So if you know you're going into a big encounter where they use a lot of specific damage types, you can create a Transmuter Stone for your tank or maybe even for your squishiest character that makes them resistant to that kind of damage. You can grant extra movement speed for your melee classes. You can get more Constitution saving throws. You can even grant someone dark vision by crafting them a Transmuter Stone that has dark vision and putting it in their inventory. The applications there are very extensive. And the last one is one that doesn't seem all that powerful for a level 10 at first. It's Shape Changer and allows you to turn into a blue jay, which has 5 HP and grants you the ability to fly. And so essentially, as a wizard, it's granting you the ability to fly because any shape changing in this game in Baldur's Gate 3, if you die in your changed shape, you just revert back to your original form with all your original stats and HP. So you can turn into a blue jay, fly up to a very high position, and then you can transform back, and then you're now somewhere that someone else can't get to. If they follow you, you can thunderwave them off and they knock them down. Or if you want to drop down somewhere that might have fall damage, you can turn into a blue jay, fly down, and then transform back, and you're good to go. So the applications there are incredibly powerful for transmutation. And those are the 8 subclasses for wizard. I hope this clears things up for you and makes it feel a little less daunting to choose between them. They're all incredibly powerful. And again, I would encourage wizard players to try to push towards the end. Those level 6 spells that you get at level 11 are incredibly powerful. And you do want to try to push towards those, but there's plenty of multi-class options as well that focus on the tier 5 versions, tier 5 spells for casting that take advantage of these passive effects for all 8 of the subclasses. If you found value in the video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and I'll see you on my live stream. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.